Hello, hello. My name is Danielle, and thank you for coming by my channel at Dani and I for all your psychic medium tea, insights, and now cold cases. This is a new series I'm starting, focusing directly on certain cold cases that have gone unsolved and no one seems to know what's going on or have been overlooked, not taken as seriously. And you will see a theme among the cold cases I've chosen. They'll probably be primarily about queer people, Black, Indigenous, non-Black people of color, any cases that are not seen as worthy to have a focus on. Those are the cases that I will be doing my deep psychic reading insights. So the cold case I'll be focusing on in this video is the Phantom Freeway case. It happened in 1971, 1972, and the main location was the I-295 in DC and a Coastal Freeway. And so, with researching this cold case, I found that a lot of it was overlooked. It's been opened several times throughout the years, and there seems to be the big missing thing. Who did it? Why? Why did they wait so long to go and look into, I believe it was Brenda Crockett's body? Why did it go so long? Edit that piece out. Why, with all these very young Black girl victims, they didn't catch many news headlines? And that's not to say there haven't been podcasts, websites, so many people way before me that have taken a focus on this case, people in the DC community that are still haunted to this day about those brutal murders on young Black girls and women. And so I hope I'm doing justice with this case by showing care, compassion as I'm doing this reading. And I hope you enjoy. Before I start pulling cards and doing the reading, I want to do a quick case background and info on the victims. The year this case takes place in 1971 and 1972. There were 6 victims, all Black girls between the ages of 10 to 18. They're all found in DC on the I-295, the Coastal Freeway. The first victim we have is Carol Denise Spinks, daughter of Alan Teen and Robert Spinks. Carol is one of 8 children and has an older identical twin sister. Her family lovingly called her Bebe. She lived with her mother in their Congress Heights neighborhood and was in her 7th grade year at Johnson Junior High School. On the evening of April 25th, 1971, 13-year-old Spinks from Southeast was sent by an older sister to buy groceries at a 7-Eleven, located half a mile away from her home, just across the border in Maryland. On her way home from the store, Carol was abducted. Her body was found 6 days later at 2:46 p.m. behind St. Elizabeth's Hospital on a grassy embankment next to the northbound lanes of I-295, about 1,500 feet south of Suitland Parkway. Examination revealed she had been both physically and sexually assaulted and strangled, was dressed but missing her shoes, and had only been killed a few days previously. Our next victim we have is Darlenia Denise Johnson. Darlene was an outgoing and social 16-year-old. She worked part-time at the local recreation center and was enjoying her summer, spending time with friends. She lived in the Congress Heights neighborhood, where Carol Spinks also lived, and walked past Carol's house to get to work each day. On July 8, 1971, Johnson, 16, from Congress Heights, was abducted while en route to her summer job at Oxon Hill Recreation Center. One witness reported having seen Johnson in an old black car driven by an African-American male shortly after her abduction. 11 days later, her body was located, only 15 feet from where Spinks had been found, even though police had been notified of the location of the corpse nearly a week earlier by an anonymous caller who had details only her killer could have known. By that time, Johnson's body, again dressed but without her shoes, was far too decomposed to determine the cause of death or if she had been sexually assaulted. but law enforcement was able to find evidence of strangulation. Our next victim we're going to discuss is Brenda Crockett, the third victim. Brenda Crockett lived in Northwest Washington, D.C., near Cardozo High School. She had a close-knit group of friends that she enjoyed spending time with. On July 27, 1971, 10-year-old Crockett failed to return home after having been sent to the store by her mother. About 2 hours later, around 9:20 p.m., the Crockett's phone rang and was answered by her 7-year-old sister, who had waited at home while her family searched the neighborhood. Crockett was on the other line crying. "A white man picked me up, and I'm heading home in a cab," Crockett told her sister, adding that she believed she was in Virginia, before abruptly saying bye and hanging up. A short time later, the phone rang again and was this time answered by her stepfather of Crockett. Crockett again, and she merely repeated what she said in the last telephone call, adding, "Did my mother see me?" and indicating she was alone in a house with a white male. Her stepfather asked her to have the man come to the phone. Heavy footsteps were heard in the background, and Crockett said, "I'll see you," and hung up. Authorities quickly concluded that Crockett likely called her home at the behest of the killer, who fed her inaccurate information in order to buy the necessary time to perpetrate the crime and to hamper the investigation. At 5:50 a.m. the next day, a hitchhiker discovered Crockett's shoeless body in a conspicuous location on U.S. Route 50 near the Baltimore-Washington Parkway in Prince George's County, Maryland. She had been R-word and strangled, and a scarf was knotted around her neck. We have our fourth victim. Apologies if I say her name wrong. Minomoshia Yates, lovingly known as Nene. Nene was a shy and quiet sixth grader at Killer Miller Junior High. She lived with her father and stepmother in Northeast Washington. 12-year-old Yates was walking home around 7 p.m. from a Safeway store in Northeast on October 1st, 1971, when she was kidnapped, R-word, and strangled. Her body was found within 3 hours of her abduction, just off the shoulder of Pennsylvania Avenue in Prince George's County, Maryland. As with the other cases, her shoes were missing, and unidentified green fibers will also be found on her clothing. A witness apparently saw her getting into a blue Volkswagen. Though investigated, the lead led nowhere. It was after this murder that the Freeway Phantom moniker was used in a Daily News article describing the murders. After 4. Our fifth victim we have is Brenda Denise Woodard. Brenda lived with her family in Baltimore, Maryland, along Maryland Avenue. Brenda was outgoing and enjoyed spending time at local restaurants with friends after school. After having dinner with a high school classmate on November 5th, 1971, Woodard, 18, from Baltimore, boarded a city bus around 11:30 p.m. to return to her Maryland Avenue home. Approximately 6 hours later, a police officer discovered her body, which had been stabbed multiple times and strangled, in a grassy area near Prince George's County Hospital, along an access ramp to Route 202 from the Baltimore-Washington Parkway. Unlike the other victims, she was still wearing her shoes, and a coat had been placed over her chest. One of its pockets contained a note from the killer. "This is tantamount to my insensitivity, sick to people, especially women. I will admit the others when you catch me if you can. Freeway Phantom." It's pretty hard to read. Based on handwriting samples, authorities surmised that the note, written on paper cut from the victim's school notebook, had been dictated to and handwritten by Woodard. They also speculated that given the absence of indications of duress in the writing, apart from the evidence of dysgraphia, she may have known her kidnapper. Our last victim is Diane Denise Williams. Diane was an outgoing person who dreamed of being a model and was excited about her future. She grew up in a large, loving family in Halley Terrace. She was a senior at Bellevue High School. The phantom spinal victim was claimed almost a year later on September 5th, 1972. A 17-year-old Bellevue High School senior Williams cooked dinner for her family and then visited her boyfriend's house. She was last seen boarding a bus at 11:20 p.m. near his house. A few hours later, her strangled body was discovered dumped alongside I-295, just south of the district line. As with other victims, her shoes were missing, but no signs of sexual assault were found, although traces of semen, assumed to be from the boyfriend, were found. I'm going to give a quick background of what's been done so far in this investigation. The Freeway Phantom case has seen a myriad of investigators and garnered much interest over the years. Numerous of investigative tips came from the general public by a telephone hotline number operated by the Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia, MPDC, and information also came by way of mail. All these leads were investigated to their logical conclusion. Some leads were easily proven not to be viable, while others required substantial investigation. The investigation was conducted by a law enforcement task that included detectives from the MPDC Homicide and Sex Squads, investigators from Princeton, George County, and Montgomery County, Maryland, Maryland State Police, and the Federal and the FBI. Common practice at the time was that the case files at MPDC detective divisions were detained by detectives assigned to the case. As a result, the Freeway Phantom case files are now incomplete. Some have been discarded entirely, and others are incomplete with pages or articles of evidence having been lost, along with their associated notes, and all the primary or task force investigators are either long retired or are deceased. Recurrent evidence and any information of the case from when it happened no leads produce sufficient evidence for prosecution. This case, which has been closed and opened a number of times over its history, is currently open as a cold case in the MPDC Homicide Division. A reward of $150,000 remains open as well. Alright, I did the background of the case, described and walked through each of the 6 victims of what happened with them so far as what the police knows. So while researching and writing on this case, I came up with 6 questions I wanted to divine on. So the 6 questions I'll be asking today during this reading and pulling cards on are: 1. Is there a common thread all the girls share besides race, age range, and location? 2. Did the killer stalk them before enacting on the murder? 3. What does the killer look like? 4. Where was the killer keeping the girls? Or, if he had a place, a lair, somewhere that he would take them to for a time being. 5. Where's the killer now? 6. Insight, details, and evidence that the police have that hasn't been discussed. And, other questions could come up, but these were just the general questions I had for a case that it doesn't have too many crazy details on. The lack of work done on a lot of ends of so many officers on this case. Why did they wait so long to go to Darlenia's body that was reported? Over a week. That's egregious. But we're here to get more insight in this case and hopefully get help. Alright. So the first question: is there a common thread all the girls share besides race, age range, and location? Let's get started. I'm going to do a second reading of the Freeway Phantom case from 1971. Into this cold case, warm, seek out answer, detail, insight, anything that can assist with rounding out this case and helping move forward. First question I have is: Is there a common thread all the girls share besides race and age range? Is there a common thread? I'm seeing a common thread could I have a queen of spades. And immediately I thought of a tutor or a teacher. Um, they all could have had this one same teacher or came across a tutor, maybe being part of the after school program. I know one of the victims, cannot think of her name, I'll try to like put the picture here, name, was at a recreation center, but he was very local. We have the King of Hearts here. So they also could have been, could have gone to an event or something, community event? Hold on. I keep seeing schools. I believe he traveled through these different schools and areas where he saw these girls. We have six of clubs. They all could have known him, could be a past person, someone that they've seen or just come across. You know how you may not know somebody's name and everything, but you know their face. Like it's a common face you see. And it just becomes a very comforting thing to see because you're part of the same city, the same town, the same area, the same neighborhood. But it doesn't mean you guys ever spoke. I am seeing he was a few years ahead of them, so there was no really common ground, but he could have known them through a family member, through his mother or aunt working with a school system. I'm seeing a teacher, someone teaching, really good at talking, really good at working with young girls. Maybe this woman went across the schools or something to speak and she had a helper with her. Maybe he wasn't related to him, maybe he worked in along with this, but he had some type of access to choose these girls just due to him being in the common area. I see schools, I see community centers, parks. There could have been an event at a park and he saw one of them or some of them. But what a lot of them have in common, what else do they have in common? I heard they're not dirty. He had a vision in his mind, I'm guessing. Could be mother issues, could be whatever issues that had nothing to do with these victims. But they all do have a common look. And there was an underlining hatred of this look or this space of something that could have reminded them of that. With them all being in different age ranges, it's as if anything of their behavior, anything that they said, their mannerisms, they could have possibly accidentally took a pencil from his area, not said anything. He immediately was like, they have to be punished. It's even very much 70s type of incel. I'm seeing a basement, very recluse. He couldn't speak to you, a woman really, or look them in the eye. So this person, they were questioning people. They probably were not looking at people that came off very timid, but had a lot of anger underneath and was very violent. And also had a violent history of this, could have been put out of schools or could have moved to this area as a kid, but there was a violent history of this. But he's that one quiet kid. But their common thread is something in their mind that it acts reminds them of or triggers them, remind them of a person. So they all had something, whether it was a way their eye twitched, like I said, an action that they did, how they spoke. Maybe they gave him a smile and reminded him of this person, it was immediately like to him. Yeah. Our next question. Did the killer stalk them before and acted on the murder? I'm asking this question because the first question showed a lot. It showed that there was kind of knowing some of them and some of them not by chance or could have been very much stalking. I do see a couple of the victims he could have known, or like I said, been a passerby. You recognize his face. And so I'm trying to understand if he stalked or if these were premeditated and planned. So let's get some insight. It was through his place of work that he knew of these girls in a way through lying, manipulation, seven of spades, unseen. He could have been using a pseudonym name while in this type of work anyways. The past coming up again with the six of spades I'm seeing. He lied, he manipulated, and he knew someone, which is how he got into this role. It's showing that he didn't have to stalk too hard. He's very close in the neighborhood. While for others, it was a bit of travel, which is why bodies were found in different parts of the freeway. But I'm hearing Darlenia was stalked, but it wasn't as if he was hiding behind bushes. He knew Darlenia. Older man. I see a tool case, a toolkit. He could have worked in these schools. I'm not seeing picture day, but he could have really been having some temp jobs, working around through schools, the recreation center, just having very ease access to watch and study them from afar. Some of the victims, there were very opportune moments, even though he knew them enough to make them feel comfortable, but they were very opportune. It wasn't too planned. It's as if he just felt so much power as he was not being caught or found and getting cocky about it. Okay. Third question. What does the killer look like? He doesn't have a pretty smile, I'm seeing. His teeth, gap, one like kind of in, the other out. It stands out. It's something about his teeth that was not ever seen as attractive. I see a scar right here. Bottom lip stands out. He tends to kind of like revert his face or like not look at you. So it's really hard to get a very clean look at him. Wiry, not too big or strong. Black man, was between his 30s to 40s. Just early 30s, I believe. Very quiet. Um, Let me see. His hair was natural in a way. I'm just seeing a hat. He had a hat over it, and hair could have been bunched up in the back as if he wasn't caring for it. I do see a uniform with a toolkit case. He's someone that stands out if you're kind of like looking around like, why do they look too clean or something, like dirty work uniform could have been working, but easy to look over. His voice was low, I'm hearing, but scraggly, like he didn't have confidence to speak within it, which is why he didn't do anything with voice. It's probably not something that fully stands out, it's just meek. He he has an area that he would, this is the next question, but pictures, article clippings he keeps in this area. It stands out, like if anyone was to go in this home and find this place, but it takes a lot of time studying his work. The newspaper articles is something that he still thinks of. He has a limp. I'm seeing, it was interesting when I was thinking of this case, I kept thinking of him like he's harmed. Like I say, he's very wiry, skinny, but he got harmed, I believe, on one of the trails, like taking the body there. Is there a partner? There isn't a partner, but he could have been living with a woman or someone that was sick, someone that didn't treat him right, that he was taking care of, where he's enacting all this and they're not in the right mind to really keep track of what's going on. A lot of anger, but meek, can't speak to a woman if she were to come up to him, really. Let's see. Where was my next question? The fourth question. Where was the killer keeping the girls' lair? Let's see. It's a common place they've all been. I'm seeing a brick building. Could be inside of school. Maybe he liked to stay into the basements of the school that was near. Nine of Diamonds. His place to work, learning, business, recreation center. It's somewhere where they've all been to before to learn, to get resources. A very common place where he had time to see them, to, like I said, some girls for opportunity, but he has seen them around, or they knew him in a way, or he just felt very empowered and emboldened. In clubs. I do see a schoolyard. It could have been school, somewhere where like abandoned. I'm not from DC, I'm from LA, so I'm really trying to give us an insight, but it's an abandoned old school building, half the sign taken off. Could have been known as haunted back then, like that's our haunted place where you like to go. It's a place where they didn't clean the grass at all. You can hear things crunching. I see thick black boots crunching the grass. I remember in one of the stories for the victims, and again I'll try to find a picture and put here. The stepfather can hear heavy footsteps. I see black boots crunching the grass at night up the hill. Where else would he take them? He could have done this in alleys as well. If it was something really quick he just wanted to do, or if it seemed like, I'm trying to remember who else had a note that they wrote. Not hesitancy, but because there was some knowingness there, It was like a quick swipe to get through it. He offered comfort to some of these girls who was older, missing tooth, jacked up, all the things, but thought he was pretty nice, quiet. Like I say, can't really talk to him, talk to girls, but does enough to seem inconspicuous. But you try to have a deeper conversation, can't do it. The teeth, I keep bringing up the teeth. A gap, one in, hang out, the teeth. He keeps mementos. I see a box. The green fibers, I'm seeing it could be some rope or type of like material you use to twine stuff together or something, building. It's within his work that these fibers are from. Taking one of the girls to that lair where he probably does that work, even though it's abandoned. Stepped in it, got caught on. He was very sloppy in some of these murders, but the 70s, them not caring too much about young black girls going missing or being found murdered. Not so smart. So he felt very cool, very empowered, like, I did that. I'm the smartest one, but this wasn't taken seriously because people don't care. Okay, where's the killer now? Is he still alive? Where is he? I see a road. This person could have moved. I'm seeing like they couldn't take care of a woman. She could have been passed away. But after the last victim, they moved. Like I said, they got injured at a point, so they couldn't act out the things that they wanted to do anymore. Limping, really hard limping. I don't see any grand living. What I do see here is there could have been other victims in different ways. He decided to act out his need to murder, harm more black girls. Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky could be places that he ventured to where they probably found bodies by a freeway. Like I said, very injured, very slow moving, so very strategic in choosing his next round, but we're gonna keep to this case. He moved far south for financial reasons. Probably made it seem like to a family member, mom, auntie, whoever's gone, just ready for a new start. Really, he was too injured. It was getting too hot in that area. People, neighbors, I see people sitting outside more because this was a neighborhood where people sit outside, so he blended in, community. But that's someone, so doing the neighborhood thing. He could have been very, like I said, he's very quiet, very to himself, but very active in the community in a way. Like no one really wants to look at him, but he can build stuff. He's want to come fix the piping because no one else is coming. Nose is twitching and means I'm channeling. This is someone that people have smiled at, have thought was probably a good kid. Mother could have been very well known in the church. Grandmother. Father's alcoholic, I'm seeing. But yeah, okay. Last question, number 6. Insight, details, and evidence that the police have that hasn't been discussed. So, oftentimes they have evidence. And I want to ask this question from my psychic insight because, I'm able to call out some evidence, then was really needs to be used to start figuring out this case. Because I'm seeing them at the cross state lines. There's other cases that are connected that align with this. Could have gotten with a partner or something that align. Let's see. Insight details. Please have this. And like they said, the evidence all over the place, but there's one case that's pretty intact. They could have found, as if there was knife play done on the body. I see wrist that could have been slit under the clothes. There were hand marks. Could have left a really bad bruise on one of the girls that they kept to themselves because that's just a detail that they want to hold. I'm seeing Darlenia. She could have gotten the worst out of all the girls besides Crockett. Everyone's done terrible, please understand that. In the sense of how violent it is. There could have been calls in about seeing Darlene or somebody arguing with this man, and it wasn't looking too good. Like I said, early 30s to 40s. We be looking young, so anybody can assume he was younger but older. There were stains left on the note as if one of the notes that were written, I forget which case, again, I'll try to put it here. One of the notes that was written, there were stains on the note that they were trying to figure out. Did he take her to eat? Did he eat before, after doing this? He had to write it, so did he feed her? Did they go out for an evening dinner or hanging out? Like what? Under the scarf, there could have been a slit on one of the victims that had a scarf tied around her neck, but they kept very close to chest because how gruesome it is. The bodies were a lot more gruesome than what they thought. Even the decay of the bodies due to not being found within the time or autopsy. A common thread they really did find was there were places that each of these girls had been to that overlapped because of the neighborhood. There were centers, areas that they were really trying to hone into, but they did not have the tools, the some motivation or some just given the green light to go full throttle into this because he was a worker at one of these places. Could have had a contract through it all. And one of the girls, they found that she could have been involved with someone older. They just couldn't find details about this. And it was probably something that parents didn't want to get around, just thinking that, they're trying to say their daughter's just with anybody when the daughter was harmed. Can I get some more insight, details, evidence? I'm seeing twine or something. And something that's left probably in our hair. Maybe something from the ceiling or dust particle that gave them insight this person could be working with tools. They just couldn't understand from where, how. Didn't have the resources to run the sand through the evidence through. There also could have been a suspect that had money that they were looking at who had a history. Hmm. I was assuming this killer was very poor, but he could have been just working to work, came from money, very awkward. Didn't make parents feel like, he was doing what he was supposed to do with the access he had. Father passed, mother got sick, mental health continued to deteriorate, came from a very abusive home. The insight that they hid was he was poor. He was a worker, though. I really feel like they hid the fact that they were looking so close into certain schools and didn't want to give hope, or they lost this lead. One of these workers left. They couldn't question him. Not saying it's him, but that's a detail that they didn't put out. Another detail I'm seeing is there was a call made. A call describing that could be from the killer just taunting. But that was something else they're keeping close to chest just to see, if it get brought up or someone would mention it. Like, they're really trying to run this case by being very close to the neighborhood and seeing who is willing to be so helpful with this guy. He's a helpful guy, but he won't be around. He had a connection. He's two girls in a way. Or he could have came up on the suspect list, with them. So stay pretty away from the investigation, but watch very closely. Like I said, I wasn't that smart. Just felt very empowered through it all. Any more messages you want to give in regards to this case? They didn't study the dirt or flowers. I see he probably smoked cigarettes. He left things around. Trash or a certain type of litter. That was a common denominator, and that was a piece they missed. I kept saying there was grease probably on the note. Could have been a McDonald's bag around, but yeah. They missed something that was just left around. They didn't study too much of the surrounding areas they should have. When they found some of the bodies, especially after it was too late, they assumed that there were things there. Dirt should have been collected. But that's part of what they didn't discuss. The prime opportunity of surveying the crime scene in detail and depth. It was too late, Like I said, I saw boots crunching. That leaves a mark. You had to wear the boots. Okay. That is what I have for this cold case reading. Hopefully, as they find new evidence, the case can be reopened again, and I can do an updated reading. But what I'm seeing here is black male that was between 30 and 40, so he's far older now. Explains the limp got worse. Teeth in, out, gap. Case were heavy black boots, like this dark blue type of jumpsuit, and a very handyman didn't like to talk too long to him or look too far, but with some of these girls, they felt comfortable with him. There was trust. They knew of him, seen him. But that is why I have. Please tell me how you like this. Are you interested in this? Would you like more cold case readings done? Let me know. I look forward to seeing your comments, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye.